The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseware continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseware at ocw.mit.edu.
I wanted to go through a little bit with you guys on what we'll expect from the group presentations and from the individual journal articles, just so you guys know well ahead of time what we want you to prepare. For the group presentations, we're looking for 15 to 20 minutes on what you guys have done as a group. So that would be a few slides summarizing each of the weeks that we've gone through so far. So the first week on what are all of your design options presented in some sort of compact way, more compact than I presented in the lecture. Then I'd be interested to see how did you choose which design parameters are important, which parts did you eliminate easily, which design choices did you eliminate right away, and then how did you choose your eventual design path. And so if all of that can be in a 15 to 20 minute coherent presentation, that's great. It's up to you guys whether everyone wants to present, tag team, or you do one person. Again, if anyone is kind of shy, I encourage you to present. If anyone has some serious problems presenting, I'm not going to force you to do it, but I really want everyone to give it a shot. So just keep that in mind. As far as the journal communications, I'm looking for about 1,000 words focusing on what each one of you individually has done. I've posted a couple of templates on the Stellar site so you guys can see some examples. They call them either short communications or letters to the editor. So if you want to see more examples of these short journal articles, you can see them online on any Springer, or Elsevier, or Wiley journal under those sorts of names. So what I'm looking for there is a bit of introduction on the design problem. So that's what you guys are working on as a whole. And that can be 1 or 2 paragraphs of what are you doing and why are you all doing it. I'd be looking for a background section on what your team is doing. So you can describe your specific problem, like the core problem or the biofuels problem, and some of the options available. And then I'd be interested from each of you to hear what you individually have researched. You know, in process heat, did you take care of heat storage or heat exchangers? What sort of design parameters have you found? And what are you going to go with in the end and why? This is just a way for me to see what each of you individually has been doing, as well as work on some scientific communication and writing skills. I forget, is this a CIM class or no? No? OK. Well, everything you do in the real engineering world is pretty CIM. So I'd say get used to it. I'm not going to have you do as much as a CIM, but it'll be a good amount. And in the rest of the time, it sounded like folks wanted an example of a QFD method, one of these quality function development things like the House of Quality. Would it be illustrative to do an example of that so you guys can see how it works? OK. So I don't want to give anyone an unfair advantage. So let's pick a problem that nobody is researching. What sort of consumer item would you want to do a House of Quality on? Anyone have any thoughts?
Car.
Car? All right. Car, computers. Well, what's the vote? Who wants to do what? Car? Raise your hands. Some sort of computer. Bicycle. iPhone. It's pretty even car and computer. And I don't have any coins to flip. All right. I heard car first, so let's do that. So this is a pretty reduced House of Quality. There are actually templates on the website to avoid you guys having to do any of the math, which is really just addition, multiplication, but it's time consuming. The important parts are what you fill in for each of these things. The first step that I usually like to take is here, what I call customer requirements. Now usually, you'd find your customer requirements with some sort of marketing survey to a certain market group. This whole concept was sort of borrowed from the manufacturing and management world, but it works pretty well when you're starting a big design problem like this. So like I said, normally we would try and figure out what the consumers want from the consumers. But here, you guys are going to have to guess it. So what are 6 traits of a car that you think consumers would want? Fast. All right. What else?
Miles per gallon.
OK.
Safety.
Safe. OK.
Size.
Size, what sort of size? These are desires like, I want my car to be safe. I want my car to be fast. So I want my car to be size doesn't quite work. Okay, so this is America. We want big cars. And this is good, actually, to have sort of conflicting design requirements. This is what happens a lot. What else? We're designing an SUV. What else do we want? Okay, reliable. All right. And one more. Cost, I'm guessing cheap, right? Okay. So we want all of these things that clearly don't mix well with each other. Now, let's see. I'll have to sort of do this diagonally. We'll have to guess the importance of each one of these. Can you guys close the windows? There's a lot of trucks outside. There. All right. Now you guys are going to have to guess what you think the customers want in terms of importance. So you guys are customers. I assume some of you guys have cars. Does anyone have an SUV? Yeah? OK, cool. So you can do this on a scale of anything to anything. It's up to you how fine you want it to be. It's going to become relative later. So who cares what it is? Let's just say on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least important, 5 being the most important. What do you think fast is? 1 says most important.
I go 3.
Yeah, 3.
All right, everyone reach a consensus. 3 out of 5. Out of 5. OK, miles per gallon in an SUV. I'm just. Wait, what? I have what? Yep. Oh, we're just rating each of them on a scale of 1 to 5. They can all be 5s if the customers think so. The only reason I picked 6 variables is so we can finish it in this hour. In reality, there'll be a lot more when you guys are doing your designs. I was hearing 1 and 2 for miles per gallon. Which one? 2. All right. How about safe? 4. I hear 1. This is why I usually pick one market segment at a time. How about big? 5. We want our SUVs big. I was just in North Carolina, and boy, they are. I rented what I call the compact car. I would describe it more as a tank. I couldn't turn a corner in a parking garage. I had to do 3-point turns on the actual, should have been 1-point turns, but whatever. Reliable.
4.
You can also say 3.5. I heard 3 and 4. You can make the scale as fine as you want. It's all going to get relative in the end. And cheap.
5.
That's right. We want what we can't have. 5. OK. So we have importances. Does anyone have a calculator? OK. Can you find each of these in terms of percent? So if we add up the total here, 10, 16, 18, 21, 24.5. Can you figure out the percentages of each of these out of 24.5? Because those are some numbers we're actually going to use.
Yeah, I think it's 22.5.
Oh, 22. Yep. Thank you. Well, anyway, if someone can just write them down, I'll move on to the next step. One of the next steps is figuring out engineering parameters. So the customers are out there. They've told you what they want. In your design problems, this would be electricity consumers or maybe utilities, or up to you to decide. But now you guys are the engineers. What are some actual parameters of this car that you're going to design? For example, the customer said big. Weight would be one of them, something you can actually measure and design. Let's see. What would some other ones be? OK, engine, maybe engine power, right? I'll just put engine in watts or horsepower, who cares? What are some other physical parameters that you as the designers get to choose? OK, cost of production. And these steps can actually be some of the hardest things to figure out because you guys as a team will have to decide what you think your customers are going to want and what parameters you actually have to control. By the way, it can be a whole lot more than 6. And there are some pretty big house of quality templates out there. So I need 3 more. OK, durability. Well, is that something that's measurable? I'm trying to think.
You can engineer certain things to fail after some time to balance the cost, but I guess you don't know the cost.
Yeah.
Materials, I guess.
What?
Maybe materials.
OK.
Expected life.
OK, so maybe expected life. That's a good one. We can also control the overall dimensions of the car, right? You can have a heavy car that's big, or you can have a hollow car that's big. So maybe dimensions. And one more. Length of the. This would more be things that the engineers would be
The
designing.
bells and whistles, like the like the electronic systems.
Oh yeah. So OK, so between bells and whistles and acceleration speed. OK. 0 to 60. OK. So not only is this house of quality or anything like it a good way to figure out what design parameters are most important, it serves as a good catalog to catalog all your different thoughts on the interrelationships between these variables, and the ones in between. So then I like to move to the top of the house, which I'll move to the bottom. There's a column here that I just like to say up or down. Because you can actually put a value on each of these engineering parameters. You want to just record, is higher better? Is lower better? Does it not matter? So for weight, is heavier better or lighter better?
Heavier, I think. The heavier cars are safer and bigger.
Well, this is all a matter of debate for you guys. You could say a heavier car is safer and bigger, but you could also say if you can design the same car to be lighter and use less materials but have the same safety and everything, that's what you'd be going for in terms of an optimization problem. So what do you guys want to do? OK. All right, so let's say the lower the weight, the better. Everything else kept the same. So assuming same safety, same acceleration, same expected life, if you can decrease the weight, that's better in terms of design. How about engine power? Yeah, that should be an obvious one. Cost of production? Lower. Expected life? Higher. Dimensions?
Want a big car?
Yeah, I think we want a big car. And speed that goes 0 to 60. OK, higher, yeah, of course. Now for the roof of the house of quality, this doesn't factor into the numerics, but this does factor into trade-offs between different design parameters. So it's good here to figure out what are the interrelationships between each of these parameters. So further down the design path, if you have to say, all right, we have to increase the efficiency or else nothing's going to work, you can immediately see what other parameters are you going to affect. And then once you have the importances for your design parameters down here, you can sort of have a mental gauge of how much do you want to push one parameter at the cost of the other. So for example, how does weight relate to engine? Is it a positive correlation, a negative correlation? And is it strongly positive or weakly positive or negative or weakly negative?
I think negative, because the heavier your car is, the more power your engine needs to put out. So if you decrease the weight, your engine is going to be more powerful per capita, I guess.
Well, let's say in this sort of frame of mind, you'd say if the weight of the car goes up, what has to happen to the engine? The engine has to get bigger, right? Or if the engine gets bigger, what can you then do to the weight of the car without sacrificing anything else? You can make it bigger. So the symbols that you'll see in this template would be 2 pluses for a strong positive relationship, 1 plus for a slightly positive relationship, a minus for a slightly negative relationship, and 2 minuses for a very negative relationship. You can put whatever symbols or numbers you want, but in this case, I'd give this a plus or 2 pluses. That's up to you guys to debate. How about weight and cost of production? Are they necessarily correlated? Yeah. It's a matter of debate. You could say, well, if the car's heavier, it's using more materials. Not necessarily true. Smarter materials could cost more per pound, but if you use like an aluminum honeycomb instead of a solid steel slab to protect for protection, weight can go down with cost of production. So I would say we can leave this one blank, just because they're not necessarily correlated. How about weight and expected lifetime? You know, barring things like crashes and stuff. What do you guys think? I'm not hearing much, which is what I was thinking too. There isn't much there. So you can see this can get pretty time consuming, and I expect debates to happen on filling in a number of these cells. But it'll be a really good thing to do if you fill it out ahead of time. You guys will all understand the process between each type of variable, and you'll have an agreement in your team. So you won't be like, well, I said it should be like this. Well, too bad. The team all agreed as such, and you've got to move forward. How about weight and dimensions? And there's no right answer here, keep in mind. One could say, well, you could have a bigger, hollower car, or you could say, in general, you increase the dimensions, you're going to use more materials. So it's probably not a negative correlation, but you guys want to say no correlation, or slight positive, or heavy positive?
Slight positive.
OK. So where these two meet is slight positive. And weight and 0 to 60. I'd say highly negative. So the heavier it is, the harder it is to accelerate. Engine and everything else kept the same. And we repeat for the rest. How about the engine size and the cost of production?
It costs more for a bigger engine.
Yeah, so weak or strong positive?
Weak positive.
Yeah. It's only one component of the car. So I'd say weak positive. How about engine size and expected lifetime? Who knows what the engine quality is going to be like? Could be a big, crappy engine. It could be a small, crappy engine. Could be a big, good engine. Could be a small, good engine. How about engine size and dimensions? If you have a bigger engine, does that necessitate larger dimensions? If you have bigger dimensions, does it necessitate a larger engine? Okay, so I'm hearing weak positive. Okay, so wherever engine and dimensions meet, right here, have weak positive. And how about engine size and 0 to 60? That's pretty clear. Strong positive. And we're getting down there. Cost of production and expected lifetime. Strong or weak positive? OK, yeah, you put a lot more good stuff in it. It'll probably last longer as long as you put it together in the right way. Cost of production and dimensions. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll just leave it blank. Cost of production and 0 to 60 acceleration.
More expensively, a quicker acceleration.
OK, yeah, it would necessitate maybe a bigger engine or more advanced materials to get you the same safety at a lower weight. So strong or weak positive? Weak positive, OK. And home stretch in this, expected lifetime and dimensions. Not really feeling anything. Expected lifetime and 0 to 60. Now you don't have to take into account things like the folks that are going to test this 0 to 60, their expected lifetime might not be very long. We're just talking about the car. So again, I'm not hearing anything, so I'll leave it blank. And the last one, dimensions and 0 to 60. Everything else keeping the same, including the weight.
Here with negative.
OK, how come? Excellent. Strong or weak negative?
Strong negative.
Yeah. Drag goes up with velocity squared along with area. Okay, so now you have an agreed upon or roughly agreed upon framework of whether you want to maximize, minimize, or leave the same your parameters and the relationships between them. So you can quickly refer back to this chart and start to figure out, all right, if I have to start increasing the weight, what do I impact? I impact my 0 to 60 speed. Is weight more important than 0 to 60? That's what we're going to find out right now. So, does anyone have those percentages? Okay, can you read them off?
Yeah, the first one was 13.3,
13.3,
8.9,
8.9,
17.8,
17.8,
22.2,
22.2,
15.6,
15.6,
22.2.
22.2. Okay. So this is one of the multipliers that we're going to be using along with this matrix. Now, we're going to fill in this matrix of how does each design parameter affect each customer requirement. This I expect to take the longest time because every single one of these cells will probably be hotly debated by you guys. And not only will they be debated in your teams, but when the integrators take a look at them, they might say, I don't know, yours conflicts with yours, we'll have to see about that. So this is a big part of the design process, and if you do this ahead of time, you'll save yourselves a lot of work in the end. The first thing you've got to do is agree on a scale. A scale from 0 to n with as many gradations between as you want. What tends to show up in a lot of the templates are strong, medium, weak, or no association. And I'll just use the same symbols as they do in the templates. Say this is strong, medium, weak, and none. And you can assign these different weights, numerical weights based on what you want to do. A lot of times what I tend to see is 9, 3, 1, 0. And you guys can agree on any scale, any fineness of scale, and any amount of numbers you want as long as you guys agree on it as a team and it's consistent. So we'll go through each of these and figure out what the associations are. So do you guys think there's a strong, medium, weak, or no association between the weight of the car and how fast it is? Strong, okay. How about the weight and miles per gallon? Okay. How about the weight and the safety? Okay. How about the weight and big? Strong. How about weight and reliability?
Weak.
I've heard everything from medium to weak to none. So you guys got to reach a consensus on this.
Still a little weak.
Let's do a week. All right. Meet in the middle. And weight and cheap. Okay. Medium. Any counter arguments to that? Maybe it can be made out of all lightweight materials, be really light, and be really expensive. Okay, but that can also factor into maybe cost of production. So what you want to do on top, as you can see, some of these encompass 2 or more independent variables. So what you want to end up doing with all of these is separating them out so that one variable doesn't encompass any others as much as you possibly can. And so that's why I expect your matrix to be rather large. You can think of every design parameter that you can within reason and try and make sure that they're independent. But this is just sort of an exercise. So on to engine in terms of horsepower and fast. I think so too. Engine and miles per gallon. Okay. Engine size and safety. I can't really think of much of an association. Engine size and big.
I feel like it's got a correlation, but maybe not the strongest one in the world.
Okay.
It's a small part of the car.
Okay, so do you want to say medium or weak?
Weak.
Okay, so we'll say weak. Engine size and reliability. I'll go with none too. Engine size and cheap. Yeah, it's a big component of the car, but it's only one component of the car. Cost of production and fast. What's the relationship between those two?
More expensive than a fast car.
Okay.
I would say,
I've heard it from strong to weak, so we got to reach a consensus.
I mean, just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's fast.
That's true. So what do you guys want to say? Medium, okay. Cost of production and miles per gallon. I would say so too. You can do a lot of more fancy engineering, which costs a lot of people time to improve the efficiency of the car. That could move into aerodynamics or fuel chemistry or fuel burning efficiency or whatever. Cost of production and safety. Medium, strong? Medium, medium, medium. Okay. Cost of production and big. Weak, all right. Cost of production and reliability, or reliable. All right. Cost of production and cheap. Okay, expected lifetime and fast. Yeah, I'm not getting anything. How about you guys? All right, expected lifetime and miles per gallon. I don't know. Expected lifetime and safe. Okay. Expected lifetime and big. There could be arguments, if it's big, you might clip trees, it might break down more, and you can have higher torque or get blown over by the wind easier, I don't know. So what do you guys want to say? Weak? Okay. Expected lifetime and reliable.
Strong.
Strong. Expected lifetime and cheap. I'm hearing mostly medium. Okay. Medium. Dimensions and fast. The relationship doesn't have to be positive. It just has to be strength of the relationship. So you can say, bigger car at the same everything else slows it down a little bit. But is it a little bit? Is it a lot? Up to you. Strong? Okay. Like I said, there's no right answers until you get to the final product, and you might realize that's not so good, but whatever. Dimensions and miles per gallon. So, strong, medium, weak, none? Medium. Dimensions and safe. I think there's something to be said for that. Yeah. If you're in the middle of this giant tank, even if a car hits you from the side, if its whole front goes into the car and you're not touched, that's pretty cool. Dimensions and big. I don't think I have to ask. Dimensions and reliable. Weak? None? I'll just leave it at none. Dimensions and cheap. All right. Finally, 0 to 60 and fast. Well, okay. You have to choose what's fast. Do you think the customer is talking about top speed? Or do you think the customer is talking about response and how it feels fast?
Response.
Yeah, strong. Okay. Yeah. And keep in mind, these customer requirements may not be voiced in the best way. It's sort of, if you were designing a product and actually handing out a survey, it would be up to you to frame the questions to get the information you're looking for, not necessarily the answers you want, but the correct information out of the customer. 0 to 60 and miles per gallon.
Yeah, like if you got like a super fast car, you're probably burning gasoline pretty quickly.
Say medium.
Okay. Yeah, I'd buy that, but also, yeah, let's say medium. 0 to 60 and safe. Doesn't necessarily have to be correlated. You can have a fast car that's got great safety systems. And we're already dealing with safe in terms of the other variables. So Would a car that accelerates faster necessarily be safer or less safe? Not necessarily.
Might be driven more.
Hey, what? Yes. Well, that depends on the driver's response time,
If you
right?
can get away from something, you'd be safer.
Okay, so you want to put an association. What strength association? You're outrunning a velociraptor. 0 to 60 and big. Medium, strong. There's certainly something there. Medium. 0 to 60 and reliable. Yeah. 0 to 60 and cheap.
Superpowered cars usually cost a lot.
Yeah, there's something there. So would you say strong, medium, or weak? Medium, all right. So each of these associations has a numerical value, and you'll multiply them by the percent importance according to the customers and end up summing them down here. So you'll end up with a importance, and then you'll just normalize it to get percent importance. And it's this row right here that'll help determine a lot of your design choices, what to focus on the most, what to focus on first, what to sort of leave by the wayside, or whether you can leave it by the wayside. So let's multiply this out. Who's got that calculator?
So I just multiply 9 by 13.3.
Yep, 9 by 13.3 plus 9 by 8.9 plus 3 times 17.8. Am I going too fast? Plus 9 by 22.2 plus 1 by 15.6 plus 3 by 22.2.
535.2.
530. It's hard for me to write that. I'm just going to round it so we can actually see the numbers. Can you guys actually see those numbers?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, ready? Next, for engine power. 9 by 13.3 times 9 by 8.9 times, or sorry, add just 22.2 and add 22.2. 244. Next up, cost of production. 3 by 13.3 plus 9 by 8.9 plus 3 by 17.8 plus 1 times 22.2 plus 9 times 15.6 plus 9 times 22.2.
536.
536. All right, life expectancy. 9 times 17.8 plus 22.2 plus 9 times 15.6 plus 3 times 22.2. 389. Dimensions. 9 times 13.3 plus 3 times 8.9 plus 3 times 17.8 plus 9 times 22.2 plus 1 times 22.2. 422. All right. So 0 to 60. 9 times 13.3 plus 3 times 8.9 plus 1 times 17.8 plus 3 times 22.2 plus 3 times 22.2.
297.
297. Okay, so if you could sum those up and get the percentages, I'll add one more aspect to this house of quality to help you sort of compare options. Yeah?
What's the first number on the importance?
This one?
Yeah.
535? Yeah, sorry, my handwriting gets worse as it gets smaller, so that's why I tend to do things pretty big. I'll show you one sort of aspect of this house of quality that you can add on to help you graphically show how different options you could compare would size up. So let's say we do it like so. We want to compare What are 6 makes of SUVs? I don't know any of them, honestly.
Crossover.
Okay, the crossover. 2 more.
H2.
H2. And Tahoe, I heard. Okay. All right. So this is the point where you could actually do a survey inside your company or a survey of your customers or just guess in your design team. How do each of these cars shape up with customer requirements? So you can see which car sort of fits the bill the best, and which car. And let's say you had yours here. You're designing a new SUV. Us. Let's just pick some random ratings because it doesn't really matter. Let's say on a scale from 0 to 5, let's say it's pretty fast. It's got terrible miles a gallon. It's super safe because it's huge. It's fairly reliable, and it's not cheap. How would you guys, or anyone that knows, how would you rate the crossover in terms of these customer requirements? How fast is it? Not, okay. How efficient is it? 1 to 5. 2, okay. How safe is it? 4, okay. How big is it? 4, that's not the biggest, okay. How reliable is it? 3. And how cheap is it? 3, all right. The H2, how does this shape up? How fast is the H2? Jeez. I'm guessing it's not much better in efficiency either. Well, I was going to say 1 or 2. Okay. How safe is it?
Extremely.
Okay, 5. And big?
It kills everything.
I'm guessing it's a tank. All right. How reliable is it?
What? No, they're very reliable. I give it a 4.
The company's out of business, it's not like you got replacement.
That's not reliability.
We can even say 3.5. I've heard everything from 2 to 4, averaging around about that. And how cheap was it?
Not very good.
2, 1,
Well, what's 60K?
1.5?
Okay.
Okay. Never actually owned a car, so I'm not much good at this. How about the Tahoe?
2.
I heard. Okay, let's say 2.5. How about miles per gallon?
It's like a 2 or 3.
Oh, not bad for an SUV. How safe is it? It is a big, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna guess. Is that about right?
It's a 4.
Oh, all right.
It's not a Suburban.
Shows what I know. How reliable is it? 4.5, I heard. 4s and 5s. How cheap was it? 3. All right. So this sort of gives you a good idea on how your SUV compares against some of the competitors. It's just a way of getting it all in there and try and figure out what are the real discrepancies between the design you're looking at and all the others. Are there big or small discrepancies? How do they weight according to customer requirements? So something that we're obviously lacking that a lot of the other cars have would be miles per gallon and cost. So we're lacking it in about the same amount. Maybe we're lacking a little more cost than miles per gallon. So if you had to say, all right, if I had to spend time improving anything at the sacrifice of anything else, we're all roughly on par with reliability, or ours is a little bigger, maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe you can decrease the size of it and somehow decrease the cost by switching to some crappier material or some heavier material, which might cut down on the speed, which we've got way much of an advantage over. So it gives you one big, giant open house of ways to help look at what you think the customers want, what you as the engineering team wants. You can also put some other columns like degree of technical difficulty. You can decide how hard is it to, switching gears a bit, increase the efficiency of your reactor, increase the total power output of the reactor, increase the yield of biofuels, increase the size of the Tahoe or whatever you're designing. So it's a good way to get everything in there at once. And I also recommend that once you guys make this, that y'all sign it. Because that's what will happen in a lot of companies out there. The engineers agree on something, they move forward in that path, and that removes a lot of personal liability for someone could say, oh, I didn't agree with this choice, I didn't agree with that choice. Well, you did sign your name. So it's what the team decided, like it or not, you did agree to it. And like I said, if you do this sort of stuff early in the design process, it saves you a lot of headache and arguments later on. So does anyone have any questions about the House of Quality? Yeah?
So is this something that each group needs to individually do themselves, and then we need a big one for the entire class, or?
I don't know if you can, if you want to create one for the entire class, you can. I think it'll be a,
Like, what do we, like, do we want to put more emphasis on producing hydrogen, or do I have to put something like that? Like, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
helpful at all, or if that's just too much work.
it certainly would be, and it certainly will be a lot of work. So it'll be up to you guys to decide. You know, you can look at each of the, I would say every team should meet together and do something like this. There are other QFD ways. There are other ways of gauging importance. You don't have to use the House of Quality. This is just one that I've used before. So it's familiar, but has anyone found any other ones out there yet? Okay, well, you can use this one. You can find a different one. You can make up your own if you can justify your choices. And what I would say, especially for the integrators, is you can put all 4 teams' QFD charts side by side. See if anyone conflicts with anyone else. If there are no conflicts, you might not have to make one for the entire group. But if you want to for completeness, or if you start to find big conflicts between what the core is trying to do and what the process heat folks are trying to do, or some other 2 or 3 groups, you might want to make a big one, and it'll be up to you as the integrators to say, all right, we've analyzed every team's progress and importance. We've noticed the following conflicts. We'd like to make an executive decision and say, we're going to focus more on this parameter than that parameter for reasons A, B, C. So it is up to you, the focus area leads as well as the integrators, to sort of define your management style. I don't like the word management, but I can't think of a better, or your integration style. Yeah. That's up to you. And that will dictate a bit of how the design process goes. Is everyone included? Does everyone have a voice? Do people have too much of a voice? And it tends to just be sort of tug-of-war with 16 or 17 different ropes, and the rope never really moves far from the center. At some point, you may choose to make an executive decision. Just be sure to let everybody know so we're all on the same page. So does anyone have any questions about, do you guys know what you should be doing during this week? Or is it not that well defined yet? Or somebody tell me.
You know,
You don't really know, okay.
no, I said we know.
Oh, you do know, okay.
Yeah,
All right, well, for those that didn't want to answer, I would say meet with your teams, figure out what are all of the major engineering design parameters that you can vary, what are all of the major outcomes that the customer would see, and start picking importances and interrelationships, and maybe by Friday or Monday at the latest, have one of these filled out so you have an idea of what you want to go for. So during next week, you can use this information to pick your one chosen design path. And whatever one comes in second or third place, try and quantify how far behind it is. So if you want to switch in the end, if you run into some unforeseen, unscalable wall, you'll know, oh, we can pick our second choice because it was just barely not as good. Or, I don't know, we should really try and make this work because everything else was left in the dust.